The courtroom was still, but inside my ribs, a silent war raged. I heard the dry rustle of the bailiff's uniform, the mechanical sigh of the air vent, the slick click of my mother compacting her lipstick beneath the bench. She was calm. My father checked his watch, a man certain of an imminent victory. Their lawyer, a man with a veneer of expensive polish, allowed himself a small, preparatory smile as the judge settled in. Then the hearing began. The judge cleared his throat and started reading the summary of my financial holdings aloud. The smile on the lawyer's face didn't fade. It shattered. By the time the judge reached the third page, the man was on his feet, his chair shrieking like a wounded thing against the marble. The blood had left his face. That's when I saw it. The dawning, horrible understanding in my parents' eyes. They had no idea who their daughter had become. My childhood was a lesson in conditional affection. Our home wasn't a place of fists, but of fine-print rules and velvet-lined control. Approval was currency, paid out for conformity. My older sister, Elena, was a natural. She mirrored their views, sought their counsel, and was rewarded with a steady stream of validation and support. I was the flawed copy. I needed reasons, not rulings. I pointed out contradictions. My curiosity was diagnosed as defiance. I was labeled impulsive, then unstable, a daydreamer who didn't grasp reality. When I got a job in college, they sighed about misplaced priorities. When I saved for a car, they warned me about predatory loans. The day I mentioned leaving the city, my father gave a sad, knowing chuckle. "The world will teach you," he said. It did, just not the lessons he imagined. I left at 20 with a single trunk and a resolve harder than diamond. I didn't flee in a blaze of anger. I departed in a quiet exodus of self-preservation. To stay was to be edited down to a footnote in their story. The years that followed were a symphony of small hardships, a studio apartment that smelled of old carpets, a diet of rice and beans, shifts that bled into dawn. I wore thrift store coats and calculated bus fare. I learned frugality not as a theory, but as a survival tactic. Most importantly, I mastered the art of secrecy. I built a life in the shadows of their assumptions. They believed I was treading water, waiting for rescue. They spoke of me as a project gone awry. I let them. They never knew about the online courses in finance I completed, nor the anonymous portfolio I started with my first bonus. They never saw the spreadsheets, the research, the silent, meticulous building of a fortress they couldn't see. My grandfather was my only ally. He saw the stillness in me, the watchfulness. "You listen like a strategist," he told me once. When his health failed, I was the one who came. I handled his bills, read to him, bore witness to his fears. One brittle autumn afternoon, he grasped my hand. "They will come for what's mine," he whispered. "And they will use you to get it." It wasn't paranoia, it was prophecy. Together, we visited a lawyer. We constructed a plan, ironclad and precise. He left his entire estate to me, not to his son, my father, nor to Elena. To me, the reading of the will was a funeral for our family's facade. My parents' stares weren't on me. They locked onto each other with a cold, calculating fury. I had become a rogue variable in their equation. The love bombing came first. Pleading calls, offers of guidance, toxic concern dressed as care. When gentle coercion failed, the mask dropped. They spoke of duty, of family, of the arrogance of my ingratitude. Then came the legal papers. They petitioned the court to declare me incapable, to install themselves as conservators of my life. They claimed confusion, instability, a history of poor judgment. They alleged they'd funded my condo, a lie so audacious it stole my breath. This wasn't about money. It was a coup. They intended to dismantle my life, brick by brick, to prove I could never be free of them. My revenge was not a shout, but a silence, so deep it became a weapon. I hired an attorney, a woman named Rivera, whose reputation was built on forensic dismantling of falsehoods. I gave her a library of my own making. Tax returns, property deeds, bank statements, every scar and trophy of my independent life. She reviewed them, a slow smile spreading. "They've built their case on a ghost," she said. "A version of you that doesn't exist." I had moved my grandfather's inheritance, every penny, into an irrevocable trust long before their lawsuit, severing it completely from my personal assets. The life they were trying to seize was already legally untouchable, a castle whose drawbridge I'd raised years before the siege began. At the hearing, my family performed a masterpiece of wounded dignity. Their lawyer painted me as a naive, reckless child. My mother produced a tissue. My father's shoulders sagged under the weight of my supposed failings. Then the judge began to read my financial reality into the record. The narrative unraveled with every word. Substantial personal savings predating the inheritance. Clear title on the property. A diversified investment portfolio. He paused at the trust documents. This instrument, he noted, his voice changing, was established by the respondent prior to the testator's death, with his full participation. I stood. To honor his wishes and protect his legacy, Your Honor. My attorney then played her final card, a voice memo. My parents' voices, crisp and clear, plotting to liquidate my assets for her own good, to show her where she really stands. The courtroom air turned to ice. The gavel fell. Petition denied. Dismissed with prejudice. In the echoing hallway, they finally faced me. Their expressions held not rage, but the blank shock of architects witnessing their own blueprint collapse. "I didn't want to break you," I said, my voice steady. "I just refused to let you break me." That evening, in the home they tried to confiscate, I felt not triumph, but a profound, echoing quiet. Revenge, I realized, isn't about causing pain. It's about building a life so secure, so authentically yours, that the very people who sought to undermine it are left with nothing but the echo of their own miscalculation. They came for the daydreamer and found a sovereign state.